It is not only vain but wicked in a legislator to frame laws in opposition to the laws of nature, and to arm them with the terrors of death. This is truly creating crimes in order to punish them. Thomas Jefferson. This is Citadelium, episode 8, and I'm your host, Yuri Degaya. Today I want to talk about another term that I use quite often in my writings and even in my tweets. That term is natural order. What do I mean by natural order? Well, first and foremost, natural order is pretty much an economic and or socio-economic definition. And I picked up this term from one of the books by Hans Hermann Hoppe called Democracy, the God That Failed. And I started using it as well because I just really like it, and it doesn't really have any negative connotations that some other terms have. Because natural order essentially describes a system of social and economic order in society that usually is called anarcho-capitalism or anarchy or private property anarchy. But I want to think about natural order as a little bit more encompassing, because anarcho-capitalism is more of a economic term. It's an economic definition, meaning that it's a type of society where private property is paramount and you cannot infringe on people's private property rights, which is completely true. And of course, as I covered before, I completely support it, because this is the only right I think that people actually have and can exercise more or less methodically. So when I'm talking about natural order, I just want to make sure that this is a little more encompassing, and I think it covers a lot more things in our society than just economics. So what are those things? As the term implies, natural order is essentially a way of organizing society based on the laws of nature, based on how nature itself would intend it to be organized. It means that the laws of humans do not really supersede the laws of nature. It means that if you organize your society on different levels. It can be from family to town to a whole country to a whole planet. If you organize this closer to how nature would organize it, then most likely it would be a more successful type of society, and it will be a more long-lasting type of society. And I think it has to do a lot with the laws of the universe, with these immutable laws of nature. And of course, there are laws in nature, and you cannot deny it. And some people call them in different ways. You can study them in different ways as well. In today's materialistic science, you can study physics or chemistry, and you can call those laws of nature. But there's also other laws of nature that can be studied from different disciplines like spirituality or even philosophy and even business. So what I want to describe to you right now is kind of a summary and a system of thought from the ancient times that was quite popular back then. And I think it's very important to know that it exists, although you don't really have to be, a fan of it. But it's good to know, to expand your mind a little bit. So these immutable laws of the universe have been described by many people throughout centuries in terms of religion, in terms of philosophy, and precise sciences and business books. If you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, I highly recommend it, because this business book actually describes quite a few laws of nature that you would find very interesting. But what I want to talk about right now is the so-called seven hermetic principles. So these hermetic principles are a good summary of the laws of nature, and you may belong to an organized religion, one of the most uh, one of the most widespread organized religions out there, like Christianity, whether it's Orthodox or Catholic, or you can belong to Islam or Judaism. It doesn't matter. I think it's good to know the seven hermetic principles simply because they predate any of those organized religions, and I think some of them are even incorporated in those religions. So even if you don't like them and you think they are a little bit too new agey, you would just benefit from knowing that they exist. And I think on an intuitive level, if you try to uh, understand and try to perceive what these hermetic principles mean, you would probably understand that they are actually everywhere. They pervade our world. So what are these principles of nature? As I mentioned, there's seven of them. So the first principle is the principle of mentalism. The principle of mentalism states that the all is mind and that the universe is mental. To me personally, it just means that whatever you have in your mind is kind of reflected in the world, and the world is, while the world itself is pretty much objective, the reality itself is objective. Your perception that defines how you see the world and how the world appears to you. So. That's why I mentioned in some of the previous podcasts that you have to really work on your mind, because the way you train your mind is essentially the way you operate in this physical reality, and it's also reflected in how the physical reality responds to you. So the second principle would be the principle of correspondence. And you may have heard this famous phrase, as above, so below, as below, so above. So what it means is that the biggest example is that the macrocosm is similar to what the microcosm looks like, and the microcosm can be the structure of the human body, and the macrocosm can be the structure of the whole universe. And we can see it in things like nature as well, in natural things. So we can see it in different patterns in nature. We can see it in, for example, the golden ratio, this spiral pattern in the nature can be seen anywhere from galaxies to small things on the planet. The third principle is the principle of vibration, which states that nothing rests, everything always moves. And I think this is quite easy to understand. Of course, while everything in our world seems, or a lot of the things in our world seem static, like the physical matter, even our bodies, none of it is static. Everything moves, because on a microscopic level, subatomic level, even atomic level, everything moves, and everything moves at a different frequency. The vibration of the movement basically defines whether this thing is more solid, or it's more gaseous, or more ethereal, let's say. So this is what the principle of vibration essentially states, that nothing is actually static. The principle of polarity is the next one. The principle of polarity states that everything is dual, that everything has poles and everything has its pair of opposites. And of course, it's very easy to see in things like the Earth having the North Pole and the South Pole, but what I think is more important to understand here is that things are not really separate. They are one, however, they are just different to a certain degree. For example, you can have cold water and you can have hot water, but they are not two different types of water. They are the same water with the same temperature with the temperature being different to a degree. So you have a scale of degree. like for example Celsius, and if your water is at 0 degrees Celsius, it's very cold. It's basically, it becomes ice at that temperature, while at 100 degrees it boils. So this is what it means to perceive the world and everything in the world as having opposites. Now, the next principle would be the principle of rhythm. And the principle of rhythm states that everything flows out and everything flows in. Everything has its tides. I think it's important to understand, because then you won't be surprised when bad things happen or good things happen, because essentially what it says is that everything in nature is cyclical. Just like we have a period of good economic growth, we can have a period of bad financial performance, and then followed by good one again. Just like we have a time of cold temperatures in winter, then they go back to high temperatures in the summer, and so on and so on. Everything has cycles, and just like us Bitcoiners to talk about, is we have bear markets and bull markets, and right now at the time of this recording, we are seemingly approaching the next bull market. So it's good to know, it's good to realize that cycles exist. They exist everywhere in nature, and if you can pinpoint them, if you can locate them, especially the cycles of your own life, then you can more or less be ready for what's coming. The next principle is the principle of cause and effect. This is straightforward again. It states that every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause. What it means is that, of course, nothing happens for no reason. There is a unlimited chain of events. Everything is caused by something, and that something in its turn causes something else. Very, very easy. I think it's very straightforward. No one can argue with that. And the last principle, the seventh principle, is the principle of gender. The principle of gender states that gender is in absolutely everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. And again, this is a little more esoteric, I would say, but you can see it in yourself, most likely, that all humans are born both with masculine and feminine natures. Obviously, if you are born biologically male, you have more masculine, so to speak, potencies of or energies than feminine. Although in this day and age, it is encouraged that men become a little more like women, which is against nature again. Yeah, so this is what it means, and just like that, everything in the world, not just humans, animals and plants, and all objects and all objects, small and big, have these potencies of male and female. So these are the 7 hermetic principles. Like I said, don't take it with a grain of salt. You don't really have to believe in them or live by them or practice them. If you belong to certain organized religions, these principles may even go against your religion completely and be considered blasphemy or heresy. That's why I'm not giving them to you, as a prescription. I'm just describing what exists. I'm just describing what has existed for thousands and thousands of years. And this is a good summary of the laws of nature that I think are at work right now, right here, and have always been at work and will always be out there. So following from these basic laws of nature, I think it's very important to understand, of course, that hierarchy is quite natural. Hierarchy is part of natural order, and this is something that a lot of the left-leaning people don't really understand or refuse to understand, or deliberately want to impose their will on, is that they don't believe in hierarchies. They think that everything has to be equal, and obviously equality does not exist in nature and has never existed and will never exist. This is just a simple fact of life. So, having said that, obviously we can say that people are not equal and will never be equal. Someone is taller, someone's shorter, someone's stronger, someone's weaker, someone's more beautiful, someone's uglier. It's just the nature of it, and you cannot really escape it. And if you accept it, you will have a better way of going around about your life, because you just have to really accept these simple truths and not really think about them, because then you're just spending your energy on useless arguments that don't make your life any better. So obviously, now that we've established that people are not equal, we have people who excel in certain arts and sciences, and we have people who don't. We essentially have people who are a little more active and more uh, more ambitious, I would say, and there are people who are a little more indolent, if I can use that word. So in this case, just like with a pack of wolves, the stronger and more active wolf would lead the pack. Then you would have people who excel in certain arts lead the other people. So, if you have, let's say, a society of carpenters, and that society of carpenters has to be organized in a certain way, obviously the most skillful carpenter, the one that has a lot of experience, and that the one who can teach all the younger ones and less experienced ones, can be the leader of that society. Similar in any other way of life, similar in any other profession and science, you can have the same structure. It is the best people by merit who have to lead the rest of the pack. Now, you have the masses, which are essentially people who do not really desire to be in the leading position, and that's completely fine. And I would say that this is the vast majority of people. And then you have these people who excel at certain things. So these people who excel at certain things can become this strata of society that actually lead the masses. And in old times, they were called the aristocracy, and sometimes they were kind of personified in a single person or king, for example. And I think philosopher kings could be that type of person who could lead a whole nation, a whole country, or a whole citadel. So philosopher kings are a type of rulers that I actually talked about in my blog at thegaia.co, when I wrote an article about philosopher kings and anarchy and monarchy. So go check it out if you haven't. In religion and spirituality, there is also no equality, and I think this is important to understand. What do I mean by equality in religion and spirituality? Well, of course, you can imagine that there is a hierarchy in the church itself, right? There's the Pope, and then there's the bishops, and there's a whole hierarchy of the Catholic Church, for example, and the same exists in other organized religions in the world. But also, I want to mention that the religion itself can be divided into two parts. The first part is exoteric, and the second part is esoteric. By exoteric, I mean the religion, a religion for the masses. It's the religion that the mass man has to follow. The reason for that is that the mass man has a difficulty in understanding abstract concepts, and because it is difficult to grasp abstract concepts, the mass man needs a personification of such a concept. They need an objectification. They need a story behind the concept, a parable behind it. So that's why the church for the mass man is usually called, an exoteric religion. And I believe personally that the current most popular religions in the world are exoteric religions. But at the same time, these same religions or others can be called esoteric. So esoteric religions are religions for the few, the very, very few individuals on the planet. And these religions or these they can be called cults, they can be called mysteries or whatever else. These are not for everybody. These are often secret societies, or in which secret knowledge is passed among initiates. It is passed from adepts to their disciples. And the reason for that is that they treat the knowledge that they share among each other as sacred knowledge. It is knowledge that is not to be divulged among the masses, because that type of knowledge is really powerful, first of all, and because the masses are not ready for this knowledge, they cannot possess it, because if they do have it, obviously, being not ready for this kind of knowledge, they can use it for all kinds of nefarious purposes, which has happened in the past. So again, I want to repeat that I believe that our society must be modeled according to natural laws, and that the farther you are from natural order, the more discord there is within that society, and the less likely this kind of society will actually last. It's more chaos in that society, because natural order even has this word in it, order, right? It's the ordering of the things that are right now in a chaotic state. So, and obviously, the closer you are to natural order, the more you follow it, the more harmonious your society is, and everything and everyone has their own place in it, and that's why it's called order in the first place. I think the biggest reason why the Citadel movement is growing is that it is essentially a search of a clean slate, rather than trying to reform the existing structures that are quite honestly pretty rotten to the core. And instead of trying to modify and change the system within, so to speak, by political ways, we would rather start something completely new. We would start something based on merit, something based on the principles of natural order, something based on natural hierarchy. It is a type of society in which we want to have a place reserved for us, and where everybody is happy to be doing what they want to do. The biggest difference is that in what we want to achieve is that people are not locked to their caste, so to speak. They are not, if you are a carpenter, it doesn't mean that your son has to be born a carpenter, and your whole family will be carpenter forever. We want to have equality of opportunity, but not equality of outcome. So equality of opportunity means that if you have an aptitude for a particular skill, for particular art or science, you excel in it, you can definitely move into those circles in the society that propel you even further, and you can become a leader in those circles, and you can actually become a leader of your whole society. And this is the biggest difference. We're not this is just because we want to insist on having a strict hierarchy does not mean that this hierarchy is imposed forever and it is locked in. No, it's all based on merit, and if you perform, if you excel, you will get to the top. Like I said, the majority of people don't want to do that. They will be happy with what they have as long as there is equality of opportunity, as long as there is there is a way for them uh, to propel their lives. They will feel like they are where they want to be, and this is what we're after here. I think citadels will succeed first on smaller levels in some localities, and then they will grow and grow into bigger movements, bigger uh, uh, jurisdictions even, and become their own countries at some point, because it just makes sense. Everything that is according to natural law will last longer. It will be more resilient, and this is what we're after. With that said, I hope you like this episode. I hope it's not too esoteric or new agey for you, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.